What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Yeah, we call him the rapper. James MENNIE joins us. You know him from the Montreal Gazette. You've loved him on CJD for how many years now, Jim? Have you been doing it?
I've lost count, but I think we're easily we're coming close on to like 20. I think.
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say it feels that long, but in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember working on 4th Street. So there you go.
Yeah.
So there you go. But yeah, it's just been this never-ending story. It's great fun, and it seems we always find new ways. But you know, I honest to God, Trudy, I was going to come on. I was ready to be outraged, but I'm so exhausted now. And my hat's off to Aaron Dreffel off the Gazette, because he's breaking these stories, finding new things that should get me outraged, should get all of us outraged. With Bill 96, the CAC's showcase cocktail napkin law, created to solve a problem that doesn't exist, i.e. the precipitous decline of the French language. Now we're hearing from French language minister Jean-François Robert saying, no. Anglos will not need an eligibility certificate to be able to speak English inside a health, or to receive health care in a language other than French. Although we've already determined, and he says, well, because it's there, it's in the regulation, that there are institutions that are designated as being able to offer these services. The thing is, what he doesn't remind us of is that Santé Quebec, this new super agency that's being created. So basically, Christian Dubé, the health minister, can just sit in his office and think deep thoughts rather than run the health ministry on a day-to-day basis. They have the power to revoke that status, and it just gets so dizzying when you look at how petty and ridiculous this law is. But what really gets me, Trudy, and maybe it's because my imagination is too vivid, I keep trying to imagine how the meeting went, where they actually came up with this legislative crap. What the conversation must have been when they said, well, if someone is, if a kid is suffering convulsions and their parent can't speak French, should we allow them to speak French or not? It's exactly the kind of scenarios that they're talking about in terms of exceptions to receiving care in English. And as I mentioned earlier on the show, when I was talking to my buddy Aaron about, who are these people, who are these bureaucrats, if they have any experience in the health sector, he said, not to my knowledge. As far as I know, no. In other words, you've got another collection of overpaid CAC apparatchiks, okay, sitting down saying, well, how can I get under this Anglo skin in some new way? And for sure, there are a lot of people who have been listening to these reports over the past 48 hours, a lot of our listeners who are of a certain age, an eligibility certificate to get your education in English. A lot of us didn't need that. A lot of us don't have one. Are we supposed to turn around and apply for one? Robert says no. But as Eric Maldoff pointed out in the last report, well, you know what? It's not very clear. And and I know, it's only a matter of time till we're talking about a case where some pinhead bureaucrat in some hospital or some clinic, or God help us, in some ministry office will turn around and say, oh, no, absolutely not. That person should, that person bleeding, that they were supposed to bleed in French, not in English.
I share your bogglement at this. I'm gobsmacked that any bureaucrat would think like, okay, I'm putting together regulations for in the healthcare sector. I know I'll bring in the requirement for an eligibility certificate for English education, which, as we know, everybody has at their fingertips.
Exactly.
Have you been carrying, yours in your back pocket? Do I carry my kids in my purse so that when I get hit by the car, I can produce it at the hospital as the ambulance attendants roll me into the ER? This to me is nutty.
Should you be wearing like a medical alert bracelet?
Well,
but like an Anglo alert bracelet that if you get taken into an ER, that you're supposed to receive it, and they'll try and sort it out afterwards, or are they going to wait? Will they search your purse, or will they search my wallet to see if my certificate's there? Honest to God, Trudy, francophones right now who would be listening are rolling their eyes as well. Okay, let's face it. This is not. Please don't shrug and nod and say, oh, they're all like that. This is a freak show exclusive to Francois Legault, noted Anglophobe Francois Legault, and his coterie of fearmongers who have done nothing but do their best to try and push Quebec back to the days of Duplessis, because everyone's out to get you, everyone's against you, and that is the only card in Francois Legault's increasingly worthless hands.
And yet we have the Journal de Montreal columnist Robitaille saying we make up our fears. We're full of it. He actually said we are full of it. He didn't use it. He implied the S word.
Okay, but I can turn around and say that any byline in a publication or platform owned and operated by Pierre-Carl Palaudot is immediately suspect. Okay, this is a guy who was the head of the PQ, who at one point in a very public event yelled from the crowd as a performance, as a singer was performing, said, black. Okay, that's the kind of chicken bumpkin this guy is. So you excuse me if I don't pay any attention to what his collection of cheerleaders has to say on any given day. I don't have to look at any Journal de Montréal or TVA commentator to know exactly what they are going to say and how they're going to say it on as many platforms as possible.
One of our texters loves your Anglo alert bracelet line as much as I did, James. So, all right.
Instead of having a little staff of Hippocrates, you can have maybe a little bowler and a cup of tea. That's the other stereotype, right? So.
Okay, shall we turn the page? As much fun as we are having, and talk about Lion Electric. Lion Electric, I thought, was one of these Quebec companies that was hugely flying high on all the interests. Yeah. What's going on here? This announcement of quite a significant layoff.
They're having a terrible year. It's the third round of job cuts. Now they're going to be cutting 300 jobs. They cut more than 200 since the start of the year. Their director is saying that this is the kind of stuff that I'm concerned, because editors will look at this and go, well, this is just a business story. No, it's not. Okay, we may not have noticed this, but when he's not trying to paint Anglos as being, homicidal monsters, Francois Legault is touting the fact that the future and our tax dollars are going into the EV industry and to the battery creation industry. And here's the head of Lion Electric basically saying right now the electric vehicle market is facing real challenges, and we're hoping these job cuts will keep our heads above water. But the fact is, I think there are a lot of unknowns and perhaps a looming cliff edge on the entire, electric vehicle industry. I know the infrastructure is there. Your last guest in the last half hour from Flow EV, they've got the stations out there. They're all over Montreal. But when you look at them, you look at those numbers and you say, is that going to be enough? And yes, it takes you about 15 minutes with a supercharger to get 350 clicks of travel. But you know what? 15 minutes. Can you imagine if you were in a gas station and somebody in front of you was taking 15 minutes? It's I'm wondering if the mindset is there. I'm wondering if we're ready. And I'm really wondering if in his psychopathic desire to put out as many photo ops as possible, theoretically creating les jobs payants pour les Québécois, Francois Legault may have taken all of our money and bet it on the wrong bloody horse. Because I've got a bad feeling about it. There's little things that happen here and there. Once again, Lion Electric, Northvolt, they're saying, well, no, we intend to continue with our expansion in Quebec, although they too are facing challenges in terms of meeting their objectives. I just think this idea, this presumption, 2035, that's it, we're going electric. I'm not so sure about that in any way, shape, or form. And I think a lot of people who are melting off, a lot of politicians who are melting off right now, either federally or provincially, are kind of happy they know they will be nowhere near public office by 2035, because I don't think that's going to be the reality.
James MENNIE, always a highlight on Montreal Now. Thanks so much, Jim, for your time.
Demand.